What happens when two of Hollywood's most adored figures sit down for what's supposed to be a light and friendly chat, only for it to unravel into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime TV history? Today, we're going through every single pause, every look, every subtle expression from the interview that has the entire entertainment world talking. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below telling me your first reaction to this whole situation, because by the end, you'll definitely have plenty to say. Kelly Clarkson starts the interview the way she always does. Warm, energetic, with that signature smile that lights up the room. Colin Farrell walks out to loud applause, looking calm and charming, waving to the audience in that effortless way that makes him so likable. They exchange greetings. He compliments the set. She jokes about his latest movie. Everything feels normal, smooth, safe. Exactly what you'd expect from a daytime interview. But within minutes, something changes. The mood in the room shifts in a way no one could have expected. Kelly leans in, genuinely curious, and asks Colin about how he chooses his roles, especially his recent dramatic ones. It's a harmless question, the kind actors hear over and over on press tours. Colin starts answering thoughtfully, saying he looks for roles with real depth and emotional weight. Characters who have flaws and struggles audiences can connect to. He's articulate and engaging, giving Kelly exactly what her show thrives on. The audience listens closely, nodding along, clearly interested in what he's saying. Then Kelly does what she often does. She tries to dig a little deeper. She mentions that some critics have noticed a pattern in his work, that he seems drawn to characters dealing with addiction, anger, or moral gray areas. She phrases it lightly, more like an observation than a criticism, but something about the way she says it makes Colin stop mid-sentence. His face doesn't change much, but you can see his jaw tighten just a bit. He takes a slow breath before continuing. Colin's response starts off calm and steady. He admits that yes, those themes show up in his work, but he gently pushes back on the idea that it's something he plans. He explains that actors don't always get to pick everything they do, that sometimes you take the roles that come your way, or you work with directors you trust, or because something about the script feels honest, even if it's uncomfortable. Kelly nods along, accepting his answer, at least for the moment. But then she makes a choice that changes everything. She brings up an old interview Colin did years ago, one where he talked about his own personal struggles during his 20s. She doesn't quote it at first, just refers to it indirectly, suggesting that maybe his film choices are connected to those past experiences. The studio goes quiet instantly. You can feel the energy in the room shift. This is no longer an easy celebrity interview. It's turned into something much heavier. Colin's body language changes completely. He leans back in his chair, and when he speaks again, his voice has lost its warmth. He tells Kelly he knows exactly which interview she's referring to, that he gave it during a time when he was trying to be open about mental health and recovery. He says he did it because he hoped his honesty might help someone else going through something similar. That being vulnerable was the whole point. Then he says something that cuts through the air like a blade. He tells her he didn't share those experiences, so they could be used by others to analyze or explain his career. Kelly quickly tries to clarify. She insists that wasn't her goal, that she was only trying to understand his creative process, that the connection seemed like a natural thing to explore. Her tone is soft, apologetic, but also a little defensive. She's a seasoned host after all. She's done thousands of interviews, and she doesn't like the idea that she's being accused of crossing a line. But Colin doesn't let it go. He tells her that intentions aren't everything, that bringing up someone's personal trauma on live television has real consequences, no matter how kindly the question is worded. The audience sits frozen, no one saying a word. A few people glance around nervously. Others are just glued to the exchange. Somewhere in the control room, the producers must be panicking because this is live. There's no cutting or editing their way out of this. Kelly shifts slightly in her chair and takes another angle. She says she understands his point, but as a public figure who chose to speak about those struggles before, he must have known they'd become part of how people talk about his work. She says it gently, not as an accusation, but the meaning is clear. If you put something out there, people will talk about it. Colin's reply comes quick and sharp. He says there's a difference between public conversation and being asked directly about your trauma on a talk show meant for entertainment. That last word, entertainment, hangs in the air. Kelly reacts to it visibly. She reminds him that yes, it's her show, and technically everything they do here is entertainment, but she says she takes her work seriously. She spends hours preparing. She truly wants meaningful discussions with her guests. Colin nods and says that's exactly his issue. That if she really wants meaningful conversations, then she should understand that using someone's pain as a way to explain their art isn't meaningful. It's reductive. The air in the studio feels tense now. Kelly's smile is gone. She's no longer the upbeat host. She's a person defending her professionalism in front of millions. She says she respects his view, but insists he's misunderstanding her question. She adds that analyzing artists and their work through their experiences has been happening forever. It's part of how people understand art. Colin pushes back again, saying that there's a huge difference between academic analysis and armchair psychology, especially when it involves real-life trauma. Kelly straightens her posture. She tells him that he's spent decades in the spotlight, that he's talked about these subjects many times before without issue. She asks why this question has hit him so hard, and then Colin says something that makes everyone in the room gasp. He says maybe it's because he's finally done pretending it's fine for people to treat his life like a case study. That after years of letting interviewers dissect his past, he's simply had enough. The camera cuts to Kelly's face. She looks genuinely shaken, trying to find the right words, to save the moment, to hold her ground. She says she never wanted him to feel that way. If her question came across as insensitive, she truly apologizes. But then she adds something that stirs things up again. She says that as someone who's also spoken publicly about her own challenges, she thought she was creating a safe space for that kind of honesty. Colin lets out a short, bitter laugh. He tells her that's not the same thing, that her experiences and his can't be compared. That yes, her struggles are valid, but they've been received by the public very differently. He says women in Hollywood often get praised for being open and brave, while men get boxed in. That his honesty about addiction hasn't earned him empathy, it's cost him work. That casting directors have skipped over him because they see him as risky. That production insurers have raised costs because of his past. The audience is stunned. She falls quiet. Then, in a surprising move, she turns to the camera and admits that this has become a tough interview, that maybe they need a break. Colin immediately shakes his head. He says no. Taking a break would just give producers time to spin the story, to reshape it, to write a neat apology. If they're going to have this conversation, he says, it needs to be real. No editing, no breaks. Kelly hesitates but agrees. She tells the crew to keep filming. The air feels heavier now. Everyone in that room knows they're witnessing something extraordinary. Kelly takes a slow breath and asks Colin what he actually wants from this, not from her, but from this whole exchange. What outcome is he hoping for? Colin takes a moment to think. He says honestly he doesn't know, that he didn't plan to do this, that her question just triggered something in him that's been building for years. He talks about the exhaustion of constantly performing, not just on screen, but in interviews, in public appearances, always having to smile, always pretending that deeply personal questions are fine. This time, Kelly listens without interrupting. When he finishes, she quietly asks if he's ever tried to set boundaries before, to tell people privately what's off limits. Colin chuckles, but it's a tired sound. He says he has, with managers, publicists, producers, but those boundaries never hold when someone smells a good headline. Kelly admits that she understands that she's done the same thing, pushed guests into uncomfortable territory for the sake of ratings or viral clips, that the system rewards it. Colin nods but says, understanding the problem isn't in